Well, if you're really so determined to have a fight, then I'll oblige.
Hello, everybody around the world listening to this on YouTube. My name is Ben Johnson, and I am the host of the Kung Fu Movie Guide podcast. Thank you all so much for listening to this conversation from our archive. The conversation you are about to hear was originally released on the 10th of June 2019. It features my conversation with the stunt performer and martial artist Olivia Jackson. In 2015, Olivia's life was transformed forever when a stunt went horribly wrong while doubling Milla Jovovich for the film Resident Evil: The Final Chapter. This conversation was recorded in person at her home here in the UK, and just to forewarn anyone listening to this, the following conversation does include some graphic details of injury and surgery. Remember, you can subscribe to the Kung Fu Movie Guide podcast right now, wherever it is that you get your podcasts. That is the best way to make sure that you never miss a brand new episode of the show. Since launching in 2016, we have spoken to some of the biggest names from the world of martial arts action movies. You can listen back to all of our previous episodes via your podcast provider and via our website, kungfumovieguide.com. That is also where you will be able to read the latest martial arts movie reviews and information, as well as sign up to our newsletter, donate to the Kung Fu Movie Guide, and find ways to get in touch. If you would like to contact us, then please do. We do love to hear from you guys. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I will be back at the end of this conversation to sign off properly, but until then, here we go. Here is my conversation with Olivia Jackson. Well, first of all, let's go way back.
Okay.
You were born in Cape Town.
I was actually born in Johannesburg in South Africa.
Sure.
But I moved to the sort of Natal Midlands when I was a baby.
Yeah.
We lived on a farm. It was an orange orchard farm.
Yeah.
Until I was about 10, we moved to another farm. My parents split up and then we moved sort of a few places back and forth. Lived at the beach for quite a while.
Nice.
And when I was 18, I finished school and I moved to Cape Town to start modelling.
But your sort of formative years then were spent in Joburg.
What's formative?
Your years growing up.
Oh no, I think I moved out of there when I was a baby. I don't even remember Joburg.
Oh, okay.
Luckily, because it's a horrible place. I never go there.
I've never been actually to South Africa.
Don't go. Oh, South Africa's amazing.
Yeah.
Joburg's pretty shit.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to swear?
Yeah, of course you can.
Okay. Yeah, Cape Town's amazing if you want to go to South Africa.
Yeah.
Although Joburg has some really nice safaris and things like that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Memories of growing up in South Africa? Quite fond memories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had an amazing childhood. Up until teenagehood, we lived on a farm.
Yeah.
And oh man, it was paradise. There was 3 of us girls, and it was such paradise for kids. We had huge rockeries with all these different trees and plants we used to play in all day long. We had ponds and streams, and we used to build boats and float the little boats down the river, the streams. We had orange orchards to play in, and huge woodlands to play in, and find banks, build boxes, and skid down the banks really fast and things like that. Yeah, really good fun.
So it was quite an adventure orientated childhood, very active.
Yeah, really good fun.
So your first introduction to the martial arts, can you remember when that was and how you got involved in that?
I never had anything to do with martial arts, but I started modelling when I was 18.
Yeah.
Moved to Cape Town, started modelling, and then after some time I started to model in Europe.
Yeah.
So I'd spend 6 months of the year modelling in Europe for their summer and their season.
Yeah.
And then I'll go back to Cape Town for their summer. And their season too. Models always go where it's busy. It doesn't stay busy in one place all the time.
Right.
So I did that for a time, and then one year I went to where I was working in Milan, and I didn't really like it, so I ended up eating lots of Nutella.
Okay.
I could not stop eating Nutella. I was probably a little bit depressed being there, living in model homes and all that shit. It's not great. So anyway, I put on a little bit of weight, and then I came back to South Africa, and then I was talking to some model, I can't remember who, at a casting, and she said, oh, she went down to this kickboxing gym. Just that's good for exercise, for losing weight.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, I'll go to that. That sounds good. So I just went and started this kickboxing, which wasn't kickboxing, it was Thai boxing.
Yeah. This is in Cape Town.
In Cape Town, yes. So I started that, and like even after my first session, I was like, this is awesome.
Wow, it was that instant.
Yeah, I loved it. So
what was it you liked about it?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I think I always love a challenge.
Yeah.
I love having something to work towards, and then I realized like how technical martial arts is.
Yeah.
I'm also quite a precise perfectionist. So when you're throwing an elbow, I could not just throw an elbow. It has to be exact.
Yeah.
Sort of like with swords as well. Everything has to be sort of very symmetrical. So I guess that was part of it, and just with Thai boxing, with Muay Thai, you really get to move your body a lot. It's a great way to exercise. So I enjoyed that part as well.
Yeah. And you were fed up of the modelling at that point, or were you looking for a way out of that industry?
No,
at that
I still
time,
loved the modelling.
Still enjoying it, yeah.
Yeah, I just started the martial arts, just training.
Yeah.
And then I started going 3 times a week, and then I started going every day, and then I started going twice a day.
Yeah.
And then there was loads of, even somebody messaged me the other day laughing about it. He was a makeup artist. They always used to have to cover my bruises. And then, there was loads of times that my modelling agency had a fight with my Muay Thai coach. And then especially one time, after 2 years of training, I sort of needed a challenge. So I really wanted to start competing, fighting, just in the amateur league. I did have a fight, and the first one was great. I won, easy. So set up another fight. The second one, not an excuse, but I did fight a girl quite a lot bigger than me. She was originally 12 kilos heavier than me, but she dropped down to, I think, 2 weight categories above me. Not an excuse, but I did lose pretty badly. And I got a massive gonk on the eye and a huge black eye. So, like, for the shoots that I had for the next 2-3 weeks, I had to cancel. Right. And then my modelling agency really had a fight with my Muay Thai coach.
Talk me through your academic side. Did you enjoy going to school? What were your sort of career pathways?
When I was in school, I was very clever. So my family always sort of thought that I'd go, in those days, doctor, lawyer route.
Yeah, the professions.
Yeah. And then I just, I studied very hard.
Yeah.
And I think by the end of school, I just like, this is boring.
Right.
And just stopped bothering to study as much. I still did well, still got good marks. But I didn't have...
It wasn't challenging enough? Did you find it just quite easy?
I don't know. I think, I'm probably just more interested in partying. Yeah. The normal thing.
Yeah.
It's not very motivating.
Yeah.
Just sitting for hours, just ramming things in your heads. And that's all it is in school. It's not things you're actually interested in. It's just repetitively trying to go over the information so that it sits in your brain.
Yeah, so just to
There's not much more to it.
Exam.
Yeah, nowadays I study a lot.
Yeah.
I'm Buddhist, Tibetan Buddhist. So I study, it's a lot of studying with that, a lot of philosophy and things like that. So now I study a lot every day, but I love it.
Yeah.
Because it's a true passion. At school, it's not really. It's just,
Yeah, it's something you have to do.
You have to do, which is never a motivator.
Yeah. At what point did the modelling become a viable career move?
Well, because I didn't know what I wanted to do as in a profession, so I just went straight into modelling. I'd been asked to model when I was in school, and my mother didn't let me until I finished school. So I just went straight into that, and it just became a profession straight away.
Yeah.
To model well, you need to be pretty professional. You need to train and keep your body fit and healthy, and so that you look good, obviously, and trim and everything.
Yeah.
And spend time to look after yourself. Don't drink, drink lots of water, eat healthy, so that your skin's glowing.
You've got to be pretty healthy to be a model, haven't you? Really?
Yeah, I think a lot of the girls are naturally skinny.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm naturally slim.
Yeah.
Most, if not all, girls are like that, and also a lot of them are young.
Yeah.
So you don't get many models over the age of 25 in catwalk anyway.
True.
But they do train really hard, and I think nowadays especially. Back in the day, it was just skinny.
Yeah.
Now people like Victoria's Secret and things like that, where you're showing pretty much all your skin. You need to be firm.
Yeah.
So the girls do train really hard.
So you're getting into your Muay Thai, kickboxing.
Yeah.
And that's happening in Cape Town.
Yes.
When did you start competing and taking that seriously then?
Well, that happened naturally over some time. In 2004, I think, I decided I'm just going to focus I went to World Champs in Thailand for amateur. So I thought, okay, that year I won't go to Europe. I'll just focus on the Muay Thai. So that started becoming much more of my passion than the modelling. I still love modelling even now. It's always been an enjoyable job, but my passion was Muay Thai by this time. I was absolutely crazy about it. For some time before that, I decided I'll take 2 years. I'll save money and take 2 years off, and I'll just travel around Asia. I've always had a fascination with Asia since I was a kid. And when I was a teenager, I watched the movie 7 Years in Tibet.
Yeah.
And ever since then, I was absolutely fascinated with the Tibetan culture.
Yeah.
So when I started modelling in Cape Town as well, I used to go down to the library, back in the days when we used to go to libraries.
Yeah.
And I just start studying Buddhism and Tibetan culture and everything. So I had a goal in my mind that I wanted to go to Tibet and stay there. But then I found out, obviously, Tibet was taken over by China, and they kicked everyone out, or everyone escaped. So I found out where they live in India, and my goal was to go there and live in a monastery there and study Buddhism.
Yeah. So this is your early 20s, mid-20s?
Mid-20s. Yeah. So then after I went to World Champs, I sort of carried on training for a bit in the martial arts. But then I went to India. And then I spent that year... I travelled around India for a bit, seeing the spiritual places, and then I stayed in a monastery, just studying there and meditating. Then my younger sister, she was going with a boyfriend to Thailand, to an island in the south called Koh Tao.
Yeah.
And she said, why not come over, because it's not far from India, why not come over and visit them? So I said, okay, I'll go over and visit. So I got to this little island, and I thought, there must be a Muay Thai gym around here. So I found one little Muay Thai gym, like quite far back in the jungle, really amazing little place called Island Muay Thai. So I thought, okay, I'll go do a session there. The manager there, called Pitun, he trained me at the end of the session. He said, do you want to do a fight in 10 days time? So I was like, okay, I'll do fight, And it was a professional fight, so you don't wear any... In amateur league, you wear a head guard,
pads or something,
a chest pad, and shin pads, which is really important in Muay Thai, because when you block with their kicks, it's pretty hardcore on your shins. And I hadn't done any Muay Thai for a while, so my shins were pretty soft. But anyway, as you do when you're in your early 20s, I was like, okay, I'll do a fight. So I stayed and trained for 10 days, and then I did a fight. and I loved it. So, and I won pretty easily. So Pitun said, there's another fight in 3 weeks' time. Do you want to do that one? So I said, okay, I'll stay for that one and do that one. So I ended up staying there for a couple of years because I really fell in love with the people from the gym, and they became like my family. So
how much did the training differ from what you were learning in Cape Town, the Muay Thai you were learning in Cape Town, compared to what you were learning in Thailand?
I had a good base when I was in Cape Town. Anybody can hit pads and spar and everything. But when you're fighting, it's like to really push past what's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So I had that good background. I think that was the main thing that I learned from Cape Town.
That endurance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The mind strength.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like strenuous on your emotions, you know, your spiritual side, your mental side, and your physical side.
Yeah.
When you're pushing that hard.
Yeah. And you get elbowed in the face.
Yeah, and when you're so tired, and you get angry because you get really emotional. Yeah. And then they keep telling you to push on, and then they keep punching you in the face or something. It's pretty hectic. But it's really good, obviously. Yeah. To always push past your limits. I won straight for like 10 or 15 fights, I think. Yeah. Although I was in the south, so I was living in Koh Tao and fighting in Samui and sometimes Phuket and everything. So it's not as difficult as it is in Bangkok, because that's where the tip-top fights are.
But you must have been quite a different fighter on the scene over there. Not only were you a female fighter, former model as well. Yeah. I mean, how were you treated out there?
Well, they used to love it, especially when I moved to Bangkok. Yeah. And I was at a gym called Khel Samrit, which is really quite a very well-known and very respected gym, with lots of world champs there and great fighters. So they got a lot of connections with the magazines and the Muay Thai TV channels and stuff. Yeah. And they used to love it because I was a model. They always used to put me in the modeling. I mean, in the magazine with modeling pictures and my fighting pictures. They used to love it. They used to think it was so funny. And you don't get many, sort of Caucasian female fighters there. You do get some, but I used to speak fluent Thai as well, so it was pretty cool. It was good to get to know the culture properly and communicate properly with them.
Were you becoming quite a big star over there?
I guess in a way. And then I used to date quite a big Muay Thai star as well there. Sure. So they used to love putting that all over the magazines as well. So ridiculous. But yeah.
But you were clearly passionate about the art itself, and it's linked so closely to the spiritual side as well. Yeah. You must have found that side quite appealing as well, I'd imagine.
Yeah, that's one thing I love about Muay Thai is it's not many. I don't know if any other ring sports have that spiritual side. There's a lot to it. Yeah. With the wire crew, the dance that you do before, every movement has a story. Yeah. There's a lot of Buddhist culture integrated into it. Women have to go under the ropes. Men could go. It's very chauvinistic, Thailand. Yeah. Extremely so.
As a culture, you mean?
Yes, very much so. There's the main stadiums, Rajadamnern and Lumpini, a woman can't even touch with your fingertip the ring, because it's such bad luck for women to touch the ring. Right. Like even in the top gyms, like in my gym, there's one ring which I was never allowed to touch. You can go near it, but you're not allowed to touch it. Right. Or train in there, only men allowed. Yeah.
How did you feel with regards to that?
I don't know. I sort of fitted into it quite well. I just respected that's their way. Yeah. And it was never a problem for me.
Yeah. How long did you live in Thailand for?
I think 5 years. About 5 years.
Did you start getting involved in movies around this time, or does that come a little bit later?
I still used to model every now and again, and I did do a shoot, and we went to shoot in Cambodia. And the other guy that was modeling with me, we were acting as a couple. It was a shoot for a hotel. So we're acting as a couple, and he was actually a casting agent for films in Bangkok. He obviously found out what I do and everything, and he was telling me about this film, a French film, Largo Winch, the second one, and they were shooting in Bangkok, and they were looking for ages for a female Caucasian that could do her own stunts.
Yeah.
And they tried everybody, they just couldn't find somebody for the role. So he's like, do you want to do a casting in the room? So we did a casting and ended up getting the role. So that's how I sort of went into the film world. And then I had to do my own stunts for that film. So we had a really good French team there. And that it's quite a shift when you go from real fighting to film fighting.
Yeah.
It was very difficult, and I had quite a few tears because I was getting so frustrated. I could not understand. I was like, no, but that's not how you do this kick. This is how you do it. But anyway, we had quite a few weeks of intense training all day long just to get me to shift over.
Yeah.
And I loved that part of it, I loved the acting part of it. But I really loved the stunts, and I just carried on doing the stunt side of things.
Because you were living in Thailand, probably at a good time for movies there with regards to action movies in particular. Ong Bak, I guess, and Tony Jaa and all that was sort of kicking off early 2000s.
Yeah, it's quite a good industry there. I mean, there are some big films that go out there, but there's a lot of B films that sort of shoot there. Also, a lot of Indian films. Yeah. Which are terrible, but they're really good fun, actually. Because it's so unrealistic. You don't sort of have to stick what kicks you would really be able to do. You can do, everything is. The more crazier it is, the better for them.
So you ended up in Thai productions, in some Bollywood movies as well.
I did quite a few Bollywood films. Yeah.
What sort of stunts are you doing on these movies?
I did a lot of fighting stunts, and then just the sort of, we did a lot of wire stuff as well.
Were you just quite happy to say, whatever you've got, I'll jump in and do it? Yeah,
to a level. On the first film, I went through some glass during a fight and crashed some basins in half and things like that. But those aren't really things you need to rehearse or have a lot of practice with.
But you would have had pretty good stunt coordinators, people on the set that were talking you through all of those stunts before you were doing them.
Yeah. If it's something that needs to be rehearsed, you have to spend time. You'll spend time. Once you get to shooting, it needs to be sorted. Yeah. People don't want to waste time. You just want to get there, set it up, and be able to do it. Yeah. In 2011, I thought I'll go back to Cape Town. I knew there was a bit of an industry in Cape Town. Yeah. So I thought I'll go give it a try there. But I did a few films, but it didn't really get into it that much. At that time, it wasn't a great industry for females, in South Africa anyway.
Females working in stunts. In stunts.
Yeah. I also got involved with a boxing gym. Yeah. Straight boxing, not Thai boxing. I was managing a boxing gym. So I did that and the stunts for 2011. And then 2012, I was like, no, I can't do it. Because even though I was in a boxing gym, it was a bit too much like a normal job. So I was like, no, I can't do this. I'm out of here. So I thought, I'm going back to Thailand. So I went back to Thailand, and while I was there, I got a call to go back to Namibia, actually. Okay. To do the film Mad Max.
So some big titles here then that you've worked on. Safe House, Dread, Mordecai, Mad Max you just mentioned there.
Yes.
Mad Max sounded like an insane shoot.
Yeah, I loved it. That's my favourite film to work on. The bunch of people that they had, they were amazing. Great stunt people. Yeah.
You were doubling for Charlize Theron, is that right?
Originally, I was doubling for Rosie Huntington-Whitney.
Yeah, fine.
Amazing girl. And then halfway through the shoot, I was asked to double for Charlize as well. Yeah. I was the second double, so they had another girl doubling her from New Zealand. So I was doubling for Charlize as well then. So I had to shave my head. Yeah. Which I really didn't want. So I didn't want to double for Charlize because I didn't want to shave my head. But anyway, they ended up forcing me into it, and it was awful. So I ended up doubling for loads of the guys as well, because we all played different characters. Yeah. There was only like 5 females in the story. The rest were all males. Yeah. So once I shaved my head, if I wasn't doubling for Charlize or for Rosie, then I'll double for one of the guys or play one of the guy roles. So I was pretty busy. I was doing lots.
And that was a long shoot as well there, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was pretty much the whole year.
Yeah.
It was great though, I loved it.
I remember an interview with Tom Hardy where he was saying that he wasn't fully aware of what George Miller had in mind for this. It all looked a bit sort of crazy. And did you have an idea of like how it was going to look in the end, or were you just...
Well, I actually, when I went to watch the film, I went to a cast and crew screening, and I was shocked as well. The first scene, I was like, wow, I did not know this was happening. This is nuts. Yeah. It was a lot crazier than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And I love George Miller. He's such a cute, adorable person.
Yeah.
And he's got such an imagination on him, because if you think of, as some of his other films, like Happy Feet. Yeah. It's like Happy Feet compared to Mad Max. It's crazy. But yeah, he's a great director, and everyone was great, and their producers and everything. Yeah.
Well, he's a visionary director there, isn't he?
Yeah.
And I guess he...
and it was his thing for so many years. It took like 13 years to produce something. Yeah. I'm so glad it came out the way it did. But it is a car and bikes movie, If you're not into cars and bikes, then it's not the film for you.
Yeah. For Mad Max, even though you have this martial arts background, was it a lot of car stunts, that sort of thing?
Well, cars and bikes become very specified. So they normally have specialists that come in and do bike stuff. Yeah. But anyway, the characters that I was doing didn't have a lot of driving. They didn't do bikes either. That's when I started motocross. I'm going to start motocross, so I have experience on a bike.
So you got into that because of Mad Max?
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I absolutely fell in love with, and that became a new passion in life.
Once you'd committed yourself to being a stunt performer, did you take it on yourself then to try and learn as much about the trade as possible to become something of an all-rounder, so that if you were required to jump in, then you could say, yes, I could do that?
Yes.
Yeah,
I think that's really important. Yeah. And I came from like a strong fighting background, and I learned how to change it into film fighting. But when I came to do Guardians of the Galaxy, I worked with you might know her, Chloe Bruce, who's a great martial artist, and also works in film. I worked a lot closely with her. She's a great girl. But I really realized, there's so much. She's great with the staff. Yeah. And I realized there's so much that I don't know. So after that film, I really pushed myself. I worked a lot on motorbikes. Yeah. But I would do that anyway because I absolutely loved it. But I started to train a lot with staff and weapons. I just used to train on my own. I just this is it. I have to get good at, as much as I can. It's really, really important. You can just, be good at one thing or not really great at anything and just amble along. But I wanted to be brilliant, Yeah. And you were doubling Karen Gillan in that, who's a very fighty role, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah. So what was that like, making that movie?
Oh, that was good fun. It was pretty strenuous on the fight side because there was a lot of complications. This producer wants that producer wants this, fight choreographer wants that, and stunt coordinator wants something else. It was pretty strenuous because you're trying, like Chloe and I, we just kept repeating the hell out of fights. She was
Gamora, wasn't she? Yes. Yeah.
So we had a lot of fighting and with us too. And oh my god, we'd just repeat the shit out of the fight, and somebody would come along, oh no, they don't want this and that. Somebody else would come along and say the same thing. It drove us crazy. Yeah. My god. But eventually we got it right. Yeah.
And how exciting when you're putting all that hard work and previs together to then get on the set, get in a costume, and then actually, do the thing. That must have been quite exciting.
That one fight scene, the long fight scene that we did towards the end, that I think was 4 days shooting on, I think 2 days in main unit, 2 days in second unit, but all in a row, so it was 4 days solid. But oh my god. And because I had prosthetics on my face to look like Karen, I could do the whole thing. Like Karen didn't really have to do anything at all.
Do you think there's a bit of a misconception around how much these leading actors and performers are actually, doing their own action in these films? Do you think people are actually aware of how much it is down to the doubles?
No, I don't think they realise it at all, but that's what it's supposed to be,
Yeah.
It's supposed to look like. I never really had a problem, with actors. I mean, it's a bit weird when actors I did all my own stunts, I didn't do anything. But there's not many that do that,
Those films are the tentpole movies, aren't they? They sort of prop up Hollywood.
Yeah.
Do you think more should be done to support, and raise awareness of the stunt teams?
Well, I think there's, always these big drives for the Oscars, stand up for stunts, that people want action to be recognised in the Oscars. I can't understand. I'm not a big driver for that, because that was never my reason for doing stunts. I just used to love it so much that I couldn't be bothered whether you get an award or not. But I do agree. I can't understand why there isn't an award for action, not for stunt performers, but for the action design. Because the action design, the stunts department is there right from the beginning. Right when, as you get the script designing and working with producers, and it's a big part of most films. And you watch a trailer for, action films, or there's always stunts in there. If you take away the stunt department, nobody's going to watch the film because the trailers are shit.
Yeah.
So I can't understand why, they have that with the Oscars. But hopefully it will come one day. We
should also say you worked on The Force Awakens as well.
I did. A lot of newspapers and online news said that I worked on The Force Awakens and I was doubling the lead. I wasn't. I actually worked one day.
Did.
Yeah.
Chloe
Chloe was doubling, but I worked on there one day. And all I did was fall over on my bum. But my husband worked on The Force Awakens for the whole run of it.
Yeah. We should say that you're married to David Grant.
David Grant, yes.
Yeah, UK stuntman. Where did you guys meet?
We met on Guardians of the Galaxy, actually.
Great.
Yeah. I came over and I had to shave my head on Mad Max for Charlize. And then, so my hair was growing back a bit. So it had sort of, shortish length but normalish hair, and then on Guardians of the Galaxy I had to shave my head razor blade shaved every day, but he still fell in love with me. So my husband and I got married, so you have to stay in South Africa. They have to sort my visa out, my spousal visa, before I was allowed to return to the UK. But they lost my passport or something. I still don't know what happened. But it took really long, and I ended up getting stuck there for like 10 months.
In South Africa?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was really frustrating because I was away from Dave, and there was a lot of films I had to decline that were shooting in the UK. But I was stuck in South Africa, and I was loving it because I was just riding motocross.
Great.
I wasn't doing any work, just riding and racing a little bit. So I was in my element, and then I auditioned for a film shooting in the UK for the first Wonder Woman. I got that job, and then but I wasn't sure when I could return because I didn't know where my passport was. So and then at the same time I got asked to do Resident Evil, which I didn't want to do because I didn't want to stay in South Africa anymore. I just wanted to get back, but again I was a bit stuck with the passport, so I thought, okay, I'll just do the Resident Evil film, which is a pretty shit film, but some fun stunts in it. There was a lot of fighting, a lot of motorbike stuff, so I thought I love those two, so I'll do Resident Evil, and then I'll go back. And Wonder Woman said I can just hop on there when I get back to the UK.
Did you notice when you were working on that film, was the setup any different than what you'd been used to, or was it business as usual?
We had a month of rehearsal time.
Yeah.
Which I focused mainly. We had a lot of big fights to run through, so we did a lot of that with a fight team and a little bit of wire work and bike stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was pretty normal. It's just a lot. It's not a big film like I was used to shooting in the UK. So everything was a little smaller. The teams were a little smaller, not quite as professional. You know, I had an argument with the stunt coordinator because we had it was a new BMW 1000 bike that came out, and that I think it's called an XT. I said to them, I'd like a bike. I know a guy that races BMW in South Africa. I'd like him to come on the team. So we work specifically. You know, if you want good quality, you've got to put in the time and the money. Yeah. But anyway, they refused to have this guy on the team. So it was a little bit cheaper than what I was used to.
Yeah, was that so? That was just because of budgets?
Yeah, just budget, I guess. Yeah. Okay.
Did you meet Milla Jovovich during that time?
Yeah, I met her. She's a really nice lady. We had to. Sometimes she had just had a baby, her second baby, I think. Yeah. So we had to go. Sometimes she'd come in for rehearsals. We always have to teach the actors the fights. Yeah. Sometimes they do them, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they do the whole thing, and then I do the whole thing, and then they cut and edit it from that. Yeah. So we always have to teach them the fight, which takes quite a long time. A lot of times we had to go to the house that they were staying, so she'd be near her baby. Yeah. Yeah, she was cool. Yeah. Really nice lady. Yeah.
And Paul W.S. Anderson as well.
Her husband. Yeah, he's the director and also producer. He was really nice. Yeah.
Let's talk about the injury. You don't mind talking about this? He's obviously talked about it quite a bit. Was it a sort of routine stunt for you to be doing?
And the stunt was, you know, nothing that crazy or fancy looking. It was just, I just had to drive in a straight line. There was two sort of bridges about 1 kilometer from each other. I'd start from the far bridge, and there was driving forward in a straight line, and there was an action vehicle, which is like a SUV with a crane on the top of it. Yeah. And that can go off to the side of it, and at the end of the crane is a camera. Yep. And the crane can move in any direction. That vehicle was coming towards me in the opposite direction, and all that was supposed to happen was I was supposed to go in line with the camera, and the crane skims the camera along the ground as they're driving. And as it comes towards me, it lifts up and over the top of me. So that was it, basically. That's what it was supposed to be anyway.
Did you rehearse this stunt beforehand?
We did have a few rehearsals, but definitely not as many as we should have. Yeah.
And is that because, was time against you? Was it one of those, things where we're losing the light, we've got to get this stunt?
No, I don't think so. It was a bit of a clusterfuck, for lack of a better word, on that day, because we were actually supposed to shoot a fight scene on top of a moving vehicle. Right. But it was raining, so then they were like, let's just shoot something, because producers, all they ever care about is money. They're like, oh, there's people getting paid here, we got to shoot something. So they said, okay, let's shoot motorbike stuff, which is not a problem, riding in the rain.
So you weren't really supposed to be doing that stunt on that day at all?
No, that's not what we were supposed to be doing at all. Yeah.
Do you remember the incident happening? How much do you remember of it?
Surprisingly, I actually remember the whole day up until the actual accident. Right. For some reason, and somehow your brain knows that incident is too traumatic, and it completely blocks it out. Yeah. And I'll probably never remember the actual, the camera hitting me. Yeah, yeah. But I can remember up until that moment, which is crazy, because if you think about me driving in a straight line at 70 kilometers an hour, and they driving in about 45 kilometers an hour in the opposite direction, and then they hit me straight in the face and the head. I've got massive brain injuries, but for some reason I can still remember the whole day, which is pretty crazy.
So let's talk through this then. So this truck with this camera attached to the crane is travelling towards you. Did you say 40 kilometres an hour?
About 45,
45 kilometres an hour. You're on the bike heading towards the vehicle. Yes. How fast are you going?
About 70 kilometres an hour.
70 kilometres an hour.
The crane's off the side of the SUV. Yeah. So they're driving towards me a little bit off to the side, to the right-hand side of me. So the crane is directly in front of me, but it's low down. So they push it low down, and so that the camera on the end of it is swooping along the ground.
Yeah.
And then as I get toward near it, it's supposed to lift up, and then the crane and the camera pass over the top of my head.
Yeah. Which isn't what happened.
Which is not what happened. Yeah, unfortunately, there was a lot of mess ups, and the production fucked up on many levels, and anyway, it resulted in them not lifting the crane in time. So they just slammed it right into my head and upper part of my body, left hand side of my body.
The result of which was that you're in hospital, you're in a coma for 17 days?
Yes.
How close were you to that being the end?
Geez, I actually don't know how I survived. I didn't have a helmet on, obviously.
Yeah.
Because it's for the story, I didn't have a helmet on. If you think about it, it's like driving at about 130 kilometers an hour. If I just rode a bike at 130 kilometers an hour straight into a big concrete bridge, that's basically what you're doing. But yeah, I was pretty close to dying quite a few times. Obviously in the beginning, the most severe thing at the time was my brachial artery here on my shoulder was severed, so all my blood was leaking out into my body, which punctured my lungs from the pressure of the internal bleeding. There was absolutely loads wrong with me, tons of bones broken. My face was degloved here on the left hand side, so all my teeth were showing. All the skin gets ripped back, and my zygoma, or my cheekbone, this eye socket bones were broken. There were shards of glass all in my face, was lacerated all over my face. My arm was broken. There was a piece of forearm bone just missing, and both bones of those were broken.
They never found your forearm, is that right?
And they never found the forearm bone. The one part of the bone about 9 centimeters long just disappeared, never to be found. My thumb got amputated. They did find the thumb a day later, but it was too late. A punctured lung, and so what happens from such a forceful impact? Your shoulder gets pushed back from your head at such a pace and impact that it rips all the nerves out that feed your top half of your body out of your spinal cord. So I'm paralyzed on my top left-hand side of my body. But yeah, I almost died quite a few times trying to come out of the coma, because when you come out of the coma, and because you've got pipes breathing for you, when they try and pull the pipes out, sometimes you can breathe on your own, sometimes you can't. So I almost died again then when I was trying to breathe on my own. It was very touch and go for a long time.
Yeah. Did they tell you, have you since pieced this together, what sort of happened immediately after the accident?
Actually, my sister was in that town at that time, so she was the first one at the hospital.
Yeah.
She saw me come in, although she didn't know it was me. She thought it was a huge rugby guy, because I was so swollen from internal bleeding. So she's the one that told me she could see my teeth, and the nurses. I guess everybody just thought they weren't sure if I was going to make it. They actually stopped filming for a week, and then they were probably like, okay, that's enough, let's get back to business. But yeah, it was pretty traumatic for the other stunt performers that are around there that I know pretty well.
Yeah. Coming out of the coma, do you remember that, the first time sort of seeing yourself and the extent of the injuries?
Well, you don't see yourself for a while, because when you come out of the coma, you're still stuck on your back.
Yeah.
When I was coming, they can bring you out very cleverly over some time. So I don't remember for the first few days, but Dave, my husband, said that I kept pointing. I still had the pipe down my throat, so I couldn't talk. But I kept pointing to my left arm because I knew couldn't move. And then one of the first things I said when I come out, I said, can you organise some physio tomorrow? Thinking that my arm was going to fix, but I didn't know that it was paralysed. And actually nobody told me that it was paralysed and that it's impossible for it to work again, because your nerves don't grow back into your spinal cord if they're ripped out by the root. I guess nobody had the heart to tell me, and also for a long time Dave was adamant that something could be done, so there was always hope. But eventually I just realised, there's absolutely nothing can be done. There's no doctor in the world that can do anything. And what was really horrible was the weight of the arm, especially my neck is paralysed on the left hand side. So I didn't have any muscles to support the weight of the arm, and it's dead weight. So that was really holding my lifestyle back. So after a couple of months I was just like, let's just chop the arm off, because I'm sick of it. I just want some kind of normality back.
That's such a huge decision to have made, though.
Yeah, a lot of people were like, no, don't chop off your arm, but I was like, it's got to go. And I honestly, the day it happened and when I woke up in the afternoon, as I opened my eyes, I was like, oh, I feel better. Really? The weight was just drastic.
Yeah,
it was horrible. And straight after that, I was like, I'm going back to training. Yeah, it was way better. So it was great. It was the best decision and the best thing that's ever happened to me since the accident. And in any case, because of the missing bones in the forearm, I would have to take the entire shin bone, one of the bones in your lower leg anyway, to replace that bone in the forearm.
So that was talked about at the time as a way of saving the arm. Right,
yes.
Okay.
But the arm gets really gross. It just gets like a claw. Just really withers in, and you have to spend hours a day pulling your fingers out, but they always end up like a really claw, and it ends up so thin and emaciated, and it's really just not attractive, and it was uncomfortable and it was horrible. So yeah, off it went.
From the moment the accident happened, how long then were you in the hospital for?
In the beginning, I was in the hospital for about 4 months, maybe. My husband rented an apartment 5 minutes from the hospital.
Yeah.
So I stayed at home, and then I'll just go into the hospital every day to do what I needed to do. And then I'll just go back for a few weeks at a time when I needed surgeries.
Roughly how much surgery was required then?
Geez, I don't even know how many surgeries I have. They put you in an induced coma.
Yeah.
Because there's so much they have to do to your body that you wouldn't be able to handle the trauma mentally and physically. So that's why they put you in an induced coma. But so they just take you in and out. They have loads of computers, reading all sorts of things going on in your body. So they know exactly when your body is under too much stress, and then they stop doing surgery, and then as soon as you can handle it again, they put you back in. So I had loads. I don't even know how many. It just take you in and out to keep doing surgeries.
Yeah. And you said once, I think, in an interview that it was actually the twisting of your back as well that was causing the most agony.
Yeah, that was. So when you're in a coma and that close to death, they don't bother fixing bones, because they have to save your life. That's a priority. So my collarbone was broken towards the end, where it actually attaches to your shoulder blade, and the shoulder blade was shattered. But because of the muscle, luckily, all the doctors said that if I didn't have such strong muscles, from boxing, my arm would have just come completely off on impact. So my muscles saved, luckily, but they keep all your scapular bones together. So although it was shattered, it still stayed in one place. So they just sort of fused back in a really weird position in the collarbone. So because I was in a coma and lying down, everything fell backwards into a lying position.
Yeah.
So when I'd sit up again, it's all twisted backwards, still in a lying position. It was so uncomfortable. My God, it used to drive me crazy.
Yeah.
And I went to loads of different surgeons, and nobody really knew what to do. And I found one surgeon that he's just the best. So I just get kept getting passed on. Like, don't know what to do with this one. Next. But yeah.
So you've got to know this surgeon quite well.
Yeah, he's done a couple. He sorted out my bones to be normal, in a more normal position, which was a huge relief. And then we did another one to manipulate, because of the paralysis on the chest. My whole shoulder girdle's too far back. I spend my life just pushing it forward, or pulling it forward, taping it forward, or lean against something. It drives me crazy. So he did another one to manipulate. He cut the collarbone obliquely and sort of twisted it forward, and also away from my spine, because my spine's very twisted now as well. That's the story of the shoulder. Never-ending story, unfortunately.
Yeah, so it happened 2015?
Yeah, September.
You said earlier that you're still in pain today?
I'm always in pain. Not for 1 second in the last 3.5 years I've been without pain. It's just part of my life now, unfortunately. And you just have to hope every day for, you always measure it out of 10. Is it 10 out of 10 pain? Or is it 2 out of 10 pain? You just got to hope for, a 3 or a 4. But
where is the pain most acute now, then?
Like right now I have a lot of pain in my phantom arm.
Yeah.
I constantly always have pain in my hand, my phantom hand. There's always very sharp pins and needles, but sometimes you get electric bolts of, shocks through your hand or your arm. Sometimes it'll be frozen so much it's like frostbite, and then sometimes I feel like somebody's putting a hot iron on your arm. It changes all the time, and it's never constant, not for 1 second. On the
arm that isn't there?
Yeah, on the phantom arm. Yeah, it's like a musical orchestra of pain in the arm, constantly moving, constantly changing, and oh man. But the best thing you can do for that is mental strength.
Yeah, because if it's a phantom arm thing, I mean, how they can't really treat that.
You can't do anything to it.
Yeah.
You have drugs which I try not to use. I've taken them away over the years, because I don't like sort of modern scientific chemical drugs. But yeah, that only helps to a certain extent. I've found the best thing that helps is meditation and things like that. It doesn't take away the pain, but you can take away the suffering from the pain. I don't know if that makes sense or not. But
yeah. And you don't take any medication per se for the pain that you're in? I
do still take one of them, but I'm constantly trying to decrease. So I've worked out a way that you can decrease it, because everybody that I know that has these injuries, they just stay on the drugs forever. But I've decreased mine so much. Like originally I was on 13 different painkillers for phantom pain, and every one of those were at the maximum dosage for my weight. And now I'm just on one painkiller that I've split into 3 times a day. And then I worked out a way I can actually decrease that by 2% per week. So that's it, just 2%. But that 2% sends my pain like skyrocketing. But if you just leave it at that 2% for a few weeks, then I think your brain gets used to it. And then it calms down a bit, and then you can decrease a little bit more. So it's really slow, but I have decreased it a lot. So it's just time.
Do you need any more surgeries?
I think I'll always need surgeries, unfortunately, for the rest of my life. There's a lot of hidden problems as well that I'm always treating, but I try to treat them with nutrition.
Yeah.
There's a lot of brain injury problems, which cause a lot of hormonal problems. Your pituitary gland, they don't make sort of certain hormones. They don't make melatonin, which is a hormone that makes you go to sleep. They don't make cortisol either, which is a hormone which wakes you up. So I'm basically like flatlining through every day. So I try to treat that with nutrition rather than fix it, rather than just sort of taking loads of different hormones.
How do you remain positive?
Well, sports.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to keep busy.
Yeah.
I'm not the type of person that sits indoors and watches TV for the rest of my life, because I can't go out my house much. It gets too painful. So it's very unfortunate, because I'm not an indoors person, but I just had to learn to adapt to be like that.
I mean, does it takes its toll then if you're walking around, if you're standing up for too long, even now, it still takes its toll.
Yeah, I get like my spine and my shoulder and my neck get really twisted, and just everything goes into spasm. So I am housebound quite a lot. So, I just make the best of what I can, and I have two cats that keep me great company.
Yeah.
Dave's not here.
They've been running around quite a bit. They're very relaxed now.
Yeah. I love them to bits.
Yeah.
I love all animals, but these two are really great company. I got them when I came back to the UK. Just sports and my Buddhism, obviously, a lot.
Yeah.
That's a huge factor in keeping mentally strong. Twice a year I go on a retreat. I go for a week on retreat. And otherwise I meditate every day, and then I study normally at night time.
Do you have resentment? Do you have anger? Are these emotions that you feel quite often?
I do go through loads of phases, obviously.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do get pretty angry if I think about it. Although I'm not naturally an angry person. No. It takes a lot for me to get like grossly angry, But I do. Sometimes I just get upset. And I'm like, God, why do I have to suffer like this for the rest of my life? Like, it's not the life I wanted, and it's just shit. So, it's so unfair. But then sometimes I'm like, things are fine. Things are, good. There's always phases. And
you must feel lucky in many ways that you survived the incident at all.
Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky in many ways. I'm lucky. They didn't even think that I would be able to control the left-hand side of my face at all. They thought I've got a Horner syndrome, which is you got a droopy eyelid, which I'm very got a complex about. But they thought that my eye would just stay open. I would never be able to blink again. Then my eyeball would dry out, and I'd go like blind, I think. And then I wouldn't be able to talk because my face is paralyzed on the left-hand side. So I'm actually so lucky that it was relatively normal. They built my face back to look relatively like the other side. I can blink my left eye. Part of my face is still paralyzed, but it's nothing drastic. I'm lucky to have such a great husband and such a supportive family. Loads to be lucky for.
And the movie world, is that something you'd like to explore as well, maybe down the line?
The stunt industry has been amazing through the whole time. They were very supportive, and they sort of started GoFundMe accounts and got a lot of money to support me for my medical things and all that. Even like through the whole time, a lot of them stunt coordinators that offered me work, probably just go and do nothing or just help out a lot. I couldn't fall over or anything because of my neck. So they have been really good to me. Unfortunately, I just can't work. Maybe in the future, but for now, I can't stand up for that amount of time.
Yeah.
And a film day is a long day.
Yeah.
You're talking about 12 plus hours, so I can't stand up for longer than, a few minutes without extreme pain. And I don't like to be not a hard worker.
Yeah.
I like to be on film set and always be ready to help out. Even if I'm not doing stunts, I want to be there with the radio and helping out if somebody needs something to go and do it. So I'm just not ready yet, but maybe in the future.
Do you blame anyone for the accident?
Ooh, there's lots of people I would blame. Lots. But those details will come out in the press in the future, I guess.
We should say there's legal things happening as well, isn't there?
There's loads of legal things going on, so there's a lot of things which I can't release quite yet. But the day will come.
What was the aftercare like with regards to the production company and the film, the people who made Resident evil. Were they quite responsive following the accident?
They were in the beginning, and then it started becoming a lot of money, and then they basically couldn't give a shit. Basically, yeah. The end.
Are they still in contact with you?
No, the only sort of contact that I have with the production on that side is just legal stuff. You know, the really sad thing about production is that everybody is so compassionate and they want to help. They love to say they want to help. But when it comes down to money, people change. It's pretty sad to see how it changes when it comes to separating with quite a lot of money. Yeah. So that's been quite an eye-opener, but yeah, just have to see how things go.
Anyone in your position or similarly who is maybe listening to this, they are a stunt performer, they're working in this industry, is there anything that you would be telling them when they're, you know, as ways of protecting themselves or regards to insurance, or any tips that you could give them when they're going into making these movies?
You know, it's so hard to say, because in my situation there were so many breaches of contract, and you don't know, you know, you can't know every department whether they've done what's in the contract or whether they haven't. I think the best thing you can do is just have your own insurance.
Yeah. Because there's a big element of trust in all of this, isn't there?
Yeah,
really?
Completely.
You know,
and you can't. You know, there's so many departments in a film. Like in my situation, I don't have control over what's happening in the action vehicle. If they make any changes or they decide to go cowboy and do something crazy, I have no control over that. But you have complete trust that every department is the best at what they do, and they're doing it, you know, to their best potential.
Yeah.
Like I did my job, you know. But you can't, yeah. It comes, yeah, as you said, you just trust in other departments, but you also can't control them. When you start out stunt performing, you're around a lot of things, or in situations where it's probably not the safest, but you don't know. And the further on in your career, you know, you insist, like, why haven't you put mats down? You know, you could fall there, or that could happen. Why haven't you done this?
It wasn't long after your accident that Joy Harris died on the set of Deadpool 2 in a motorcycle accident. Should more be done to protect stunt performers?
Well, you know, I don't like to comment on situations where I wasn't there, because there's so much that's involved. So I don't want to comment on that specific situation, because I don't know, you know, what the safety was, or, you know, how she was, or what the situation was like. But in general, like, it is getting a lot stricter now, especially in the UK. They have a quite strict system for safety. In the States as well, and Australia and Canada. But in a lot of the other countries, you know, the safety isn't as strict, which isn't great.
Do you think it's because the way that action movies nowadays, you know, everyone's seen everything, they're competing with computer-generated effects? If they're going to use human beings, they've got to constantly up the ante. Do you think that puts pressure on stunt departments? Maybe things get overlooked in some way? You
know, the problem is that producers pressure you. They always want more, now, for cheaper and cheaper. And they always want to push for more, and you have to have a stunt coordinator that just says, no, I'm not doing this stunt because we haven't rehearsed it. If everybody wants to stop, go do something else for 2 hours and come back, then we would have rehearsed and then we can do it.
Do you think people are aware just of the actual, you know, dangers there are on these film sets?
Actually, I think that the general public think the stunts are a lot crazier than what they are. I think that people don't realize how calculated it is. I think in a way people think stunts as, old school stuntmen, then you just go do crazy stuff. But in film, it's a lot different. It's very calculated. And whatever the stunt is, you start really slow and really simple, and you slowly build it up. You never just go in, all guns blazing.
There's the physical impact, obviously, of the injury, but mentally it must have been quite a task during the recovery process. Mentally, how are you doing? Are you doing okay? Do you find that the Buddhism actually helps that in a way?
The mental part of it is the hardest part. The physical's one thing, but the really hardest part for me was the change of lifestyle.
Yeah.
How much I love my martial arts and how crazy I was about motocross. Like, that was my life, motocross. And, I loved stunts and my work and everything. And all of that was taken away. So that is the hardest part of it. The good thing is that it's given me a lot of time to practice my Dharma and my Buddhist practices. And beforehand, I was so busy riding motocross, training stunts and filming and everything. So although I was always studying, my Buddhist practices slowed down a bit. So now I have the time to, meditate every day and do my practices and study and all that. Do
you replay the incident at all over in your head, how things could have been done differently, or do you think about that a lot?
I don't. I'm just not that way inclined. Maybe it's my Buddhist background, but it is what it is. I just get on with it. All I focus on is what can be done. Constantly thinking of things that can help my physical pains, and always focusing on training. I still train. I still do martial arts, and I still do horse riding and everything. So just focusing on things that motivate me and will make me stronger, rather than worrying about things that you can't change anyway.
I do follow you on Instagram, and you're quite an inspirational person. I know you uploaded a video relatively recently of you training. It seems like you're someone who's, like you were in the Muay Thai ring, you weren't going to let these things defeat you. Well,
I just love sports.
Yeah.
I think it's always been an important part of my life. I started off getting back into the martial arts, which was a little scary in the beginning because always coming from a fighting background. But then my martial arts teacher from Genesis, Paul Busby, he's amazing, and he was just like, this is the style we're going to go for now. You obviously can't go back into Muay Thai where you're just going like full power, getting kicked in the head and shit, because I don't have the neck support and everything for that. So we're going to do kickboxing, which is a lot busier, but you stay further away, obviously. And then you've also got the grading system, so you've got the belts, which I've never done before, but it's a great way to give you motivation. So in this school we have an 8-belt system. At the moment I'm on the 5th one, so I've got 3 more to go until the black belt, which would be an amazing accomplishment to get the black belt with one arm. It is obviously, it's difficult because every time I go to training it's really hard on my body. All the twisting and the standing up makes my back really, really sore. But I think it's really important to just keep doing it, and it gives you so much back than what it takes.
How do you feel now being something of a role model, I guess, for disability?
I don't know. I don't see myself as a role model.
No?
I just look at everything from my perspective, from my eyes, I guess, and I'm just doing what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like my things on Instagram, there's so much bullshit out there on Instagram.
Yeah.
So my Instagram, I try to keep really organic and really true. I don't sort of try to pretend, oh, my life's amazing or this and that. I just try to keep it really real. People interested, they're interested. If they're not, doesn't matter. Yeah, I'm just doing what I do.
Thank you so much for your time,
no
Olivia.
Worries. It was good to meet you.
For talking to me today. That's fantastic, and all the best, obviously, for your recovery.
Thank you.
Olivia Jackson there, thank you so much for listening to this episode. I do hope you have enjoyed this conversation from the Kung Fu Movie Guide podcast. If you have enjoyed what you've just heard, then please do like the show, subscribe to our channel, leave a comment or share it with your friends. For more episodes, head over to kungfumovieguide.com and wherever it is that you get your podcasts. You can also contact the show and keep up to date with all our latest news via social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, and you can also email us. The email address is hello@kungfumovieguide.com. Okay, this is Ben Johnson signing off for another episode. Thank you all so much for listening to this on our YouTube channel, and until we meet again, do take care and bye for now.